I never thought 3 short sentences could unhinge the foundation of my marriage, but that evening proved me wrong. I was sitting at my desk, finishing the last of my reports, when my phone buzzed lazily, nothing unusual. But when I glanced down at the notification, the air in the room grew heavier. Staying with Mom tonight. She's sick. That was all. No explanation. No concern, no warmth. Just cold, clipped words from a woman who used to fill my life with long, rambling paragraphs of affection. At first glance, it sounded reasonable. Sarah's mother had been unwell recently, but something about the timing hit me wrong sharp in a way that dug under my ribs. Thursday nights were our nights. We cooked together, watched reruns of old sitcoms, laughed until we forgot the world existed. But tonight she wasn't coming home. A bitter instinct crept up my spine. Not suspicion, recognition. Because earlier that day, when she thought I wasn't watching, a message had flashed across her screen. "Can't wait to see you again. Tyler," a name I didn't know. A tone I recognized immediately. The kind reserved for someone who wasn't just a coworker, someone she didn't want me to know about. My chest tightened with something I had bottled up for months, the late-night texts. The lies too easily rehearsed, the distant smile she no longer shared with me. Before my brain could intervene, my fingers typed, "Cheater. I'm at your location." The moment I hit send, regret flared, not because I didn't believe it, but because confrontation wasn't in my nature. I had been patient, gentle, understanding, too understanding, but tonight my silence snapped. 10 minutes later, I was in my truck, speeding through dimly lit streets, my grip on the steering wheel aching with every mile, my thoughts tangled in a storm of anger, fear, and heartbreak. When I arrived at her mother's house, I saw Sarah through the kitchen window, laughing, not worried, not stressed, not tending to a sick parent. Just smiling at something on her phone, a soft, private smile I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. And that hurt worse than any accusation I could have thrown. I walked inside quietly. "Sarah," I called. She glanced up, startled. But instead of guilt or concern, an unmistakable flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "What are you doing here, Max?" She said my full name, sharp and dismissive. "I got your text," I said carefully. "You said your mom was sick." She shrugged. "She's fine. She just wanted company." "What's the big deal?" "The big deal? Everything. The lies, the distance, the way she looked at me like I was a burden she hadn't planned for. But I said nothing. I just studied her. The tightness in her shoulders. The dart of her eyes to the window, like she expected someone. The subtle smile fading on her lips, one clearly meant for someone who wasn't me. "You're acting strange," she said coldly. "Is something wrong?" A hollow laugh escaped me, short, bitter. "Wrong, Sarah? I'm tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of ignoring the signs. Tired of acting like your staying with Mom texts aren't hiding something." Confusion flickered in her eyes, but only for a second. Then the hesitation, the pause, the calculating breath. I saw the truth before she said a word. And in that moment, something in me broke cleanly, not violently, not loudly, but with quiet finality. A clarity sharper than anger, colder than heartbreak, more liberating than either. I walked toward the door. "Max," she called softly, uncertainty shaking her voice, but I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. The truck engine hummed beneath me as I pulled away. No shouting, no chaos, just a quiet, painful resolve settling into place. For years I had patched the cracks in our marriage with excuses. She's tired, she's stressed. Maybe I'm imagining things, but cracks don't vanish. They spread, they deepen, they wait. And tonight, they finally swallowed everything. The night was cool, the city washed in reflections of neon signs. I drove aimlessly until I found the small 24-hour diner I used to escape to in my college days, when life felt simpler, when problems could be fixed with pancakes and cheap coffee. I walked inside, sat by the window, and ordered coffee black, no sugar, something bitter enough to match the taste in my chest. Outside, the neon light flickered against wet asphalt, painting the world in reds and blues. I stared at nothing, or maybe at everything. Every moment I'd ignored surfaced. The nights she stayed late claiming unfinished work, the laughs she shared with her phone, not with me. The affectionate habits that faded without warning. I took out my phone. The text glowed like a wound. "Staying with Mom tonight. she's sick, and beneath it my reply, cheater. I'm at your location, I could have called her. Demanded answers, begged for the truth, but why? To drag myself through a conversation she had already rehearsed lies for? No, not anymore. This wasn't anger, this was survival. The waitress refilled my mug quietly. Her kindness felt like something I didn't know how to accept. I sipped the bitter coffee and let myself feel everything, the years of loyalty, the nights of loneliness, the fading warmth, the creeping suspicion, the gasp of betrayal that never fully surfaced, and beneath it all, a strange peace. Because clarity does something powerful, it frees you. I wasn't obligated to stay in a life built on half-truths. I wasn't required to fight for someone who had stopped fighting long ago. I wasn't responsible for saving something she didn't care to preserve. By the time I left the diner, the world felt unfamiliar but lighter. I drove without thinking, letting the rhythm of the tires calm the storm inside me. And somewhere along the highway I realized I hadn't lost her tonight. I'd lost her long ago. Tonight I simply stopped pretending otherwise. When I finally reached my apartment, the sky was beginning to soften with pale morning light. I carried inside a small overnight bag, not much, just enough to remind myself I didn't need a whole house to begin again. I set it down, made a pot of coffee, and sat by the window. The world outside was quiet, peaceful, untouched by the chaos inside my heart, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I wasn't angry at Sarah, I wasn't waiting for an explanation, I wasn't imagining reconciliation. I was simply done. Done shrinking myself. Done apologizing for her distance. Done patching a relationship she kept tearing. I thought about the good years, the laughter, the late-night talks, the vacations, the promises whispered in the dark. They were real. But so was the neglect, the lies, the slow unraveling she never tried to stop. And somewhere between those two truths I found an answer. Love isn't just connection, it's recognition. Mutual presence. Mutual effort. When one person stops showing up, the relationship becomes a room with only one heartbeat, suffocating and lonely. And tonight I walked out of that room, not out of cruelty, not out of weakness, out of courage, because letting go is its own kind of love, the love you finally give yourself. By the time the sun rose fully, warming the windowsill, the weight on my chest had lifted enough for me to breathe without guilt. I didn't know what the next weeks would bring: conversations, apologies, paperwork, silence. But I knew one thing: I would never again allow myself to be someone's afterthought. And as I finished my coffee, watching the city come alive, a quiet truth settled inside me. Freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it feels like a sunrise after too many nights awake. And that morning, for the first time in far too long, I felt free. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. And if you're going through a tough time, remember you are not alone and help is available. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.